Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back, and it is time for another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 AI bot cast. We have got ourselves what should be a great match here today, although pretty much all these bot matches are great, and we're very, very blessed at that. So, without further ado, we've got Annie Dev. Just also known as Annie Bot, but I assume the dev part, meaning that might be tweaked a little bit. Gonna be taking on, oh gosh, I always forget this one. Eris? Eris. I'm going with Eris this time. So, a TVZ between these two bots, but more importantly, a bot versus bot on the map Infestation Station, which is just a catchy sounded name. And so, if you ladies and gentlemen do enjoy these kind of botcasts, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you have not, check how many likes are on the video right now, and add one more. Leave a comment down below that says more bots. Consider becoming a YouTube member if you do want to support this content. And I just gotta say that you guys are an amazing community. I know that Starcraft 2 AI is kind of, it's a little bit niche. But you guys are an amazing community. We always hit like a 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 like to view ratio, which is just awesome. Which is better than a lot of big YouTubers. So I think that says something. And so, as this game is getting started, we've got a 2 racks from Annie Dev, gonna be opening up with a Marine that's probably gonna catch this Overlord. We'll see if the Overlord can save itself or not. Behind this, the Zerg is going for 3 hatcheries, so a very, very macro-oriented Zerg opening. And boy, oh boy, when that bot macro gets going, it really, really gets going. So, looks like Annie Dev actually gives up the chase on the Overlord, which is interesting. I say it's interesting because, like, in this situation, sometimes that could potentially be bait. Say the Zerg was going for a hatchery first, they move in the Overlord, and they go, come on, dumb Terran, walk out with your Marines, and then they get mauled by some Lings or Roaches. But when you open with 2 racks, I think you should have the confidence to step after that Overlord. So maybe that's something that Annie Dev could consider, but that's just, that's nothing too important. While this game is going now, we've got a starport on the way. We've got this Overlord potentially going back on in. I don't know if it's going to survive round 2. Hopefully the audio is fine for this game if you guys do enjoy it. Or if you find any issues with the audio, let me know. I'm always looking for feedback on that. Like, every now and then, like, you'll adjust one Windows setting, and your audio just goes all over the place. So this Overlord does die. It goes for a scout at the natural. I believe it would have seen that there was no natural base, so that's a pretty big scout. 2 spines are on the way at the front for Eris, and a Roach Warren, so stopping at 26 drones, so playing it very safe. Now, the spines have been building for a long time, so I'm kind of curious what triggered that, or whether it's just sort of like a against Terran thing that Eris goes for. I mean, if the Terran goes Hellion, spines are pretty good at getting a swipe off on them, or just stopping bio pushes. Definitely makes me a little bit curious. Eris really, really respecting what this Terran bot is going for here. We've actually got a full Medivac being loaded up. And this is actually one of the reasons why I was really, really looking forward to this game. It was that the Annie Dev did say that they attempted to use Medivac drops in this game, which is something that we don't see a lot out of when it comes to bots, and we'll see how well this Terran bot's going to do with it. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Of course, this is no stim, just 8 Marines in a Medivac. It's like it's Heart of the Swarm all over again. In come these Marines, however. We'll see how many drones they're going to get, and it looks like the drones simply just burrow, which is definitely one answer to this. There's the great behavior from both these bots. Annie Dev uses a scan to force those drones up, and then Eris actually reacts and realizes, oh, those drones aren't safe anymore, and gets them out of there. Now, we saw 8 drones actually die to that drop, which is more than it seemed like. So that's a really good amount of damage against a Zerg that has gone for such such a low economy. Like, I mean, Eris is at 23 drones. That is incredibly low. Now, I know it's got a very healthy roach count. Well, reasonably healthy roach count, but I think going for these 2 spines early on, while I'm sure they're safe and they really help the bot out, kind of set it back a bit. And that's what I guess this game's going to be about right now. It's going to be seeing whether Eris can kind of justify delaying its economy as long as it survives to the late game. Can it win the game? Or whether that will come back to bite it, delaying its economy. Now we've got AnyDev moving out once again. No stim pack on these Marines. I imagine making a bot use stim pack and drop is even harder than making a bot that just uses regular drops. So combat shield's going to be the first research on that tech lab. This Ling is also burrowed, just enjoying the time of its life, hanging out at the number 3 expansion. And yeah, the game seems to just have calmed down a little bit. Eris is really catching up on that worker count, now up to 44, which looks a lot better than the 23 it was at. It's now getting up a layer, that kind of thing. But this game is looking pretty decent for the Terran, I'll say. But Eris is a really good bot, so I think AnyDev is probably the underdog in this game. We've got now 2 medivacs moving out for drops. If 1 drop killed 8 drones, we'll see if 2 drops kill 16. Or potentially they could cancel this hatchery. It's the programming, the code that is whizzing by as a drop like this is executed. I imagine it's just nuts. Now, these Marines trying to get this queen, looks like they will get it, then the drop goes towards the natural, chases off some of those drones. The Marines now have combat shield, but in come the queens, in come the roaches to clean this up. Medivac's going to load up those units and get on out of there. Now they're going to fly back over this hatchery, but I get the feeling they're just going to head right on home. They killed another 5 drones, denied some mining time, got a queen. Not bad for the Terran. If this was a regular TVZ, I'd say, yeah, that's pretty decent for the Terran. But if this was a regular TVZ, I feel the Zerg would have a little bit more going for it. So it's kind of a hard comparison to make. We see AnyDev just expanding towards the bottom right. I'm guessing because of that Zergling that was hanging under the ground there, but that Ling is now gone, so I guess it got scanned or decided to unburrow itself. We see a few Marines and Marauders moving across the map, going to kill off that queen. Denying creep spread is a nightmare in a map like this because, of course, it's machine-like perfect creep spread, but getting the queens is a pretty darn good start for AnyDev. We'll see how well Eris manages those if it assigns some more of its queen flock, herd, gaggle. I don't know what the word is for a group of queens. Swarm, I guess, because there's Zerg. But I feel like there's got to be a different term for a group of queens. Anyway, we have Eris dealing with the light offensive, I'll say, from AnyDev, and that creep cleanup is going to be very important because, yeah, those Zerg bots, they spread the creep like it's like they're machines at it. And so now we see AnyDev going for another drop. It's got Stimpack on the way. Corrosive Bile attempts on those medivac's not going to hit them, and we'll see if there's going to be a reaction from Eris. Is it moving these units back to its main base to defend? Well, now units are unloading. I imagine they will, but I was mainly curious whether there's any whether it was preempting that or not. Now those Marines with a scan going to kill off a lot of those drones. We see individual drone targeting going down from this bio unit, so they're not just like shooting a roach or anything. I guess that's where a lot of those kills come from. That's definitely not something a human player can do. 2 tanks and 2 Marauders, a bit of an odd pushing force, but definitely an anti-roach force. Doing pretty darn well for themselves. A few more Marines come in. A lot of those roaches are burrowed, and AnyDev is playing a pretty darn good game so far. These tanks really important right now. Roaches aren't burrowing, but they're just not grouped up enough to really get on top of these tanks. As they unburrow, they eat tank shots pretty much immediately. While this is going on, though, Eris is up to 5 bases. That's pretty darn good for the Zerg. AnyDev's getting up a 4th base. Looking like just a regular old TVZ for the most part, as we see all this tech coming online, extra bases popping up, and this is looking like a really good bot game so far. Looks like Eris is pushing up this ramp, a bit more consolidated now. Gets one of those tanks, that's a big deal. There is now stim on the bio, and that's being utilized. What's the medivac count? It's now 4 medivacs. We'll see how well AnyDev manages its HP, manages its stim pack. But the work that these bot authors are putting into their bots to make them look so darn good against each other. It's phenomenal. Now, it looks like Eris has got to deal with a bit of a drop as a large portion of its army is moving on in. I think Eris might, and if AnyDev has a lot of success with this strategy on the ladder, we may see bot authors kind of adjusting how their bot plays due to drops like this. Now, we'll see what the success is going to be here. This hatchery's under fire. The Marines aren't really targeting it too much. There's the stutter step micro going on. They're just going to lift up, get on out. All the while, there's still a bit of a push going on at the front. These roaches being burrowed, getting a lot of value out. We're almost going to need a scan counter in Starcraft 2 as these bots get better and better, as the amount of scans a Terran spends is a big, big deal. And I imagine that, yeah, AnyDev is probably just using them as fast as it can get them. Those scans burning a hole in its pocket. And now we see AnyDev going to have to contend with the Zerg that's getting up a Lurker Den, a Hive, a Spire, Infestors on the way, while it's also getting up a Fusion Core, making lots of Liberators for itself, which are not an easy thing to deal with. It looks like these Roaches and Raptors pushing on in. Tank getting some good shots off on them, though. In comes a Liberator. It's going to set up on top of this, try and defend the space. That's good to see. All the while, the army's kind of hanging out. We see AnyDev randomly saying, scanning burrowed roach. That's the first time it's said that this game, despite the fact that it has done that a lot. And so I'm really curious what the sort of different trigger there is in regards to scanning the roach versus just going for its regular scans. These Liberators and tanks still set up kind of an odd spot. We see another scan going down, trying to deal with those roaches. Eris is saying Lurkers are now on the way. It's getting that seismic spine as well. All the while, there's a drop now going on down towards the 4th base of the Zerg. So it's not just damage getting done on one side. Resources lost are slightly in favor for AnyDev, but I'll not say by a huge amount. Another scan goes down on those roaches, and those scans, every time we see AnyDev saying scanning burrowed roaches, that's almost 300 minerals gone from its pocket. And that's real darn good for the Zerg. We also see these command centers lifted off, so they're not going to be scanning. I think one of those CCs must have died or not. No, I'm curious. Where'd they float off to? Did one must have already floated to the top left and the other's on the way. We see a base attempting to be landed on by this command center. We'll see where it's going to go after it fails to do that. Does it? Yeah, it just bounces towards another potentially free base. So that's quite interesting. We see Marines and Marauders intercepting these roaches, pushing them back, but forcing them to burrow, and that's where the Zerg gets the efficiency. With that burrow, those units do not die. Although 33 roaches have died this game, it would be a lot more had that not been the Zerg's behavior. A scan goes down as Marines now drop towards another one of these Zerg bases. The control and multitasking of these bots, well, I mean, we know that that's always been good with AI, the control, but the decision-making, it seems, for AnyDev just to continuously keep pushing all over the place, how these bots are kind of individually controlling their units, floating their bases, it's just phenomenal. And it's why we love watching these bot games. Blinding Clouds going down on AnyDev's army. Broodlords are on the way now. Corruptors are on the way. Liberators are getting some big shots off, however. There's advanced ballistics for them, so they can siege up. They're going to have +1 on the way. The tanks are getting +2. +1 attack is just on the way for the Terran bio, so that's quite delayed. But, I mean, these Liberators are going to do pretty darn good for the Terran, I think. Now, Broodlords are attempting to be morphed, but I don't know how effective they're going to be in this case. The Corruptors definitely could be effective against all the Liberators. Vikings are now on the way for AnyDev, so realizing it needs air control, it's also got Thors out. This is going on. There's pushes just all over the place as Broodlords are getting some good efficiency. I shouldn't have said that. I don't think they're going to get too much done. Broodlords can be pretty darn good against Terran. And we are seeing that as it's pushing the Terran bot back now. The economy of AnyDev has been harassed all over the place a little bit. I honestly think the amount of scans that have to be used by the Terran are really affecting AnyDev. Like, I feel the Terran should have more money this game. When we look at Eris, it's maxed. It's lost slightly more resources than the Terran bot, yet the Terran bot is way down in supply, way down in the bank, and I honestly think that scans have got to be a big part of it. There we go. We see a couple of mules are getting dropped, but like there's definitely been less mules dropped this game than any dev would like. We see Broodlords now attacking base towards the top left. That's going to be another big economic hit. And eventually they're going to have to be dealt with by the Terran bot, but it seems that Eris just has way more map presence. Its harassment, its roach groups have been great. The fact that they don't get cleaned up so handily by the Terran, and they're always seemingly there to harass again later on, is big. In comes the Terran bio, could potentially get on these Broodlords. There's not too much to support them, and we'll see if that's going to be the case. There's a potential dive. The Marines are trying to go for it, and they kind of are, but getting caught up on the Broodlings after all. The tanks may yet do some friendly fire. Fortunately, those Marines are killing the Broodlings so fast that hasn't happened yet, but it very well could happen. Lurkers are now burrowing. Just Marines against that aren't too darn good, and things are looking mighty rough for any dev as it's losing yet another base. This base is having its mining affected by a Ling run-by, and while the bot looked pretty darn good, it's having a hard time contending with the macro of Eris, and yeah, it is looking a little bit rough. I think the scans are so big for the Zerg. I'm not sure what any dev needs to do to change it up, whether that just be maybe get its upgrades sooner, as it did have very delayed 1-1 upgrades, whereas the Zerg has 3-3 presently. So that's going to make you bleed out supply a lot faster, whether it potentially would be like getting a Raven, that sort of thing, or just playing a little bit more defensively. It's tough to say, but I do think Eris has got this. As the Zerg just has a monstrous composition, a massive fungal goes down on, as these Vikings are just getting fungled into oblivion. The splitting behavior isn't the best. Blinding or parasitic bomb, fungal growth, amazing play by Eris to finish the game off. They're killing off all the Vikings, and Anydev did not avoid that properly. There's one Thor left, a couple of tanks gonna try and hold the line. I mean, the Thor could survive forever with all these SCVs repairing it, at least until the money's gone, and then they all just leave him. Poor Thor. So let's see now. As, yeah, Broodlord's working on the main. It's 100 supply to 200. Eris is just doing that Zerg thing, spreading the creep all over again. Or actually, did it resume creep spread? It does have queens out on the map, so I assume that it is, as the creep definitely has grown. But it doesn't actually have active tumors at the fronts here, so that's a little bit interesting. We see Eris saying tag, Dropper Lord. Yeah, I believe this one's going to be it, though, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for tuning in as we watch these 60 SCVs fight over 4 mineral patches. Yeah, leave a comment down below that says more bots. Join the Discord, consider becoming a YouTube member, subscribe, hit that bell icon, leave a like. This one Thor is going to give it his all, but he gets abducted and he vanishes into thin air. In one of the weirdest Starcraft bugs there is, a tank gonna try and get some big shots off, and big shots off it will get, but then it gets abducted again. The spell casting of Eris is just truly beautiful, and then it's pretty much just the SCVs, and that's not too good for them now, is it? Anydev saying GG testing. So I assume that that's just to maybe get some data if they are planning on implementing a surrender mechanism in their bot. Make sure that it doesn't surrender too soon. So I assume if Anydev was to have GGing behavior, that would have been it. That's interesting, but yeah, that is gonna be that. I'll see you guys next time. Oh, one more thing. We got a Freak of World on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Dark, Cure, Hero, and Classic. 4 of the best StarCraft 2 Korean pros will be playing. I'm probably going to upload the VOD in one piece on this channel in the future, because they don't perform that well. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in, and tune into a Freak of World Saturday night.